Wow. An early morning standing ovation. I grew up in New Jersey, but I have learned that people in Chicagoland are quite fond of you. Dare I use the word legendary around here? It is a pleasure to have you with us this weekend. So glad you joined us. Pleasure to have your wife, Kim, with us. Everyone, a warm welcome for his wife, Kim. And you have a wonderful family, and we have a picture, so let's throw that up on the screen. Tell us about your family.
We have 7 kids and 5 daughters, 2 sons. And my sons-in-laws are like my son. There's one family missing, our second oldest daughter.
Let's show them. We have a picture of them too, since they couldn't be in that picture.
Yes. That's, he couldn't be there. He and my daughter, his father passed away and he had a funeral they had to go to.
What a wonderful family.
Great, yeah.
So thrilled to have you here. Let's start by clearing away some curiosities, okay? Super Bowl Shuffle. Let's just talk about this for a moment. Okay, so for all of you under 30 years old, 1985 Bears, pop culture phenomenon. This happened in a century called the 1900s. So if you have never seen the Super Bowl Shuffle, we can't air it due to copyright restrictions today, but if you've never seen it, you don't know what we're about to talk about, we're going to put a QR code on the screen. Mute your phone, grab it, watch it while we're talking about this, so you can experience for yourself the gem that is the Super Bowl Shuffle. Okay, it's 40 years ago now, about. What do you think when you see the Super Bowl Shuffle these days?
Every tape, every album, 45, whatever you call it, I burned them. Trying to keep them away from my kids or anybody that knew me.
So for all of us who are parents that have older kids, you know, when they see old pictures of us, they like to make fun of us. So do your kids roast you about the Super Bowl Shuffle?
Oh, yeah. Dad, let's look at that again. No, we don't need to see the Super Bowl Shuffle. Done.
All right, so here's a little bit of trivia about the Super Bowl Shuffle. It was nominated for a Grammy. This is mind-boggling. Nominated for a Grammy, Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal, and you lost to Prince and the Revolution's Kiss. If you guys would have won a Grammy for that song, you would have owed Prince an apology for the rest of your lives. Okay, next curiosity. Where did the nickname Samurai Mike come from?
I'm an old Bruce Lee fan. I don't know how many of you know about Bruce Lee, but he was amazing, martial artist. Well, I always liked his impact. When he made impact, it was always, what? So when I was playing, for me, while the quarterback was getting in his cadence and all of those things, I was looking at my keys, but I was making noises at the same time. It's like, and, the quarterback would be like, what is wrong with this guy? So anyway, that's where Doug Plank came up with that name.
All right. Now, you seem pretty chill sitting here. You've been pretty chill all weekend. But let's take a look. What is up with these eyes? Now, let's just zoom in so we get the full. So, are you looking for something pre-snap, or are you just whipping yourself into a crazed frenzy to get the job done? What is going on with those eyes?
No, I really was looking at something. As the middle linebacker, you're in the middle of everything and you see it, but every alignment, from the center to the guards, to the tackles, to the quarterback, everybody's telling me something, and there's a pre-snap read. You have a chance to have an idea what play they're going to run if you can read the keys. So I was always looking at the keys. Who's talking to me? Who's telling me where the play is coming? And that's why my eyes were like that. I was trying to see it.
All right, last curiosity here. You appeared in a reality TV show called Beyond the Edge in 2022. It's a Survivor-like show with celebrities in the Panamanian jungle. So why would a guy that is as seemingly serious as you be involved in a reality television show?
I really felt that I needed to go. I remember when I said yes. It was like an out-of-body experience. My wife and I were both stunned that I said yes, I would go, because I don't like bugs. When I eat, I like to eat in peace. And so, but I really felt at that time I needed something to help me see God in another way. And I did. It was great being in the jungle. And the first night that we were there, Ray Lewis was my partner next to me in a hut. And, they told us, don't go anywhere by yourself. And so it's 2 o'clock in the morning, I got to go to the bathroom. And there are 3 paths that you have to take. And they gave us this little lamp that you can only see from here to here. And I got up and I'm thinking, which path is taking me to the bathroom? And so I was going to tough it out, and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I went back and I woke Ray up, and I said, Ray, we're going to the bathroom. But it was that was the first night. But by the midweek, we were there like 10 days, but midweek, one night I was walking, and it was kind of like I was having this conversation with my spirit, and it was, Mike, I created this jungle. Yes, sir. I created the animals. Yes, sir. Why are you afraid? Why are you afraid? And I had to come to grips with that. Either I believe God, either I'm going to take him at his word, or I'm not. By the time I left, I was thinking, this is my jungle. I am walking. I am going to the bathroom. I'm going wherever I'm going to go, and I am not going to be afraid. And so from the time I got there to the time I left, big change. And I was very thankful for that experience.
Wow, that's great. So if you're looking for your next binge watch, now you know. Sounds like the start of a joke. So Mike Singletary and Ray Lewis are peeing in a jungle. Yeah. All right, let's jump into your story here, and let's start with your childhood. Getting ready for this interview, I've read lots of books, seen interviews, listened to podcasts. You use 2 seemingly incompatible words to describe your childhood and upbringing: Christian and chaotic. So let's start with the Christian side. Talk to us about how faith informed your family life when you were a kid.
Well, I'm the last of 10 kids. My father was a Pentecostal pastor. And, we went to church, every Sunday. We looked the part. But that really wasn't the way things was in my home. And so the chaos part of it was, we were afraid of my dad. My dad was very physical. My dad would sometimes... he and my mom would fight. There were times that with my siblings. And by me being the last one, I was always watching this. I was afraid of my dad. I stayed out of his way. I didn't say anything to him if I didn't have to. But all of those things, I just knew that wasn't right. There was something happening here. How could this be? So that's kind of summarizes growing up.
And at 12 years old, what happens with your father?
Well, at 12 years old, I remember my dad coming in the kitchen one day, and I was talking to my mom, and my dad came in and said to my mom, hey, let's go outside. I need to talk to you. And mom goes outside, and I'm out there with them, and I'm looking at both of them, and my dad turned towards my mom, and he said, I want a divorce. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of going back and forth. It's not working. I'm going to move on. And my mom looks at him and goes, but what am I going to do? How am I going to pay for the house? And he said, hey, you'll figure it out, and walked away. And so that was a very difficult time. I'm standing there watching my mom cry and watching my dad walk away.
So your dad is a Pentecostal pastor, and he leaves your mom and all of you. But you're a Christ follower today. So I have a question for you. A lot of people, they either reject Jesus or stiff-arm God because of the bad behavior of people who profess to be Christ followers. But somehow you overcame that. How did you do that?
I believe that when you take a step back, and I think for any of us, it's easy to to look at it and go, well, I don't know if I really believe in God. And of course, that happened in my life. You sit there and you think, maybe I will buy into the evolution, that movement. But you think that just two things have this combustion and all of this happens. The more I find out about my body and how my body works, how my mind works, all of those things, that just happened by some kind of accident? I don't think so. I do believe that there's a God. But I think for me, it was very difficult to try and figure out how do I come to grips with all of what was happening in my family at 12 years old. I've got brothers going in and out of jail. I've got sisters having babies out of wedlock. Dad just left, and here I am, the last of 10 kids, least talented, the smallest, and really just trying to figure this whole thing out. And things begin to unfold in my family. When my dad left 6 months, my brother Grady, who was next to me, came back home to help my mom financially. 6 months later, he's killed in an automobile accident. So, hit by a drunk driver. And so, I'm thinking to myself, God, really? Where are you? I mean, mom is alone. We're alone. We're trying to figure this thing out. My brother Grady is just killed in an automobile accident. Where are you? I don't hear you. I don't see you. I certainly don't feel you. So I made a very conscious decision to just be mediocre and just kind of say, I'm not sure if I can go through life and put everything into this life and have it come up short and take a step back and go to church and say, I still believe, when there's something in me that doesn't. So I just made a decision to say, you know what? I'm not going to try to be the best. I'm not going to be the worst, but I'm just going to stay right in the middle, because I think in the middle is the safest place to be. I'm not sure if I believe strongly in God, but I believe a little bit. I'm not an atheist. I believe a little bit. And maybe that's about as far as I'm going to go.
All right, so at 12 years old, your father leaves your family, and you mentioned that Grady, your brother, was killed in an accident caused by a drunk driver. Details on that accident: it was a 6-car accident. Everybody dies in the accident except the drunk driver. So that's a lot for 12 years old. So how did you navigate all of that? Father walks away, brother killed by a drunk driver, you're 12.
Well, first of all, I came to that decision. It was about a week and a half after my brother's funeral. I'm at home and I'm thinking, I go through that process, I'm going to just be mediocre. And at that time that I made that decision, my mom walked in the kitchen and she saw me and she said, son, I want you to sit down. I need to talk to you about this thing called life. She said, the key to life, I know you're hurting and I know you're all over the place in how you feel, but this is life. And this is what happened. But I want you to understand, when you get punched in the gut, you got to find a way to get up, dust yourself off, and get back in the ring. And son, when you get back in that ring, you got to keep swinging, and you got to keep swinging, and you got to keep swinging until you're the only one left. That's what life is all about. And so she looked at me and she said, son, I want you to understand that there is greatness in you. There is greatness in you. I knew it before you were born. The doctors told us to abort you because they said you would not live a normal childhood life. You would be sickly and maybe not make it. And maybe we didn't have to go through all of this. But we decided we are having this child. And so when you were born, I'm just telling you, don't quit. Don't give up. It's in you. And so at that moment, Mom put her hands on my forearm and asked me the question that changed my life. She said, son, I know you're only 12 years old, and this is unfair, but I got to ask you if you can become the man of the house. And I'm thinking to myself, Mom, I got some sisters that could be the man of the house. So it was tough, but at that moment, listening to what my mom was telling me, that greatness in me and asking me to be the man of the house, and she really believed that I could do that, I felt something. And so I looked in her eyes and I realized that I said, Mom, I can do this. I can do that. I will do that. And I walked in my room and I got out a sheet of paper and I began to write out my vision statement. This is something that was in my mind. You know, I used to read a lot. I used to listen to a lot of books about positive mental thinking, and I read the Bible. I sit there and listen to my mom talk about the Bible. Well, today, that day was it. And as I began to write, it sounded like this: find a way to get a scholarship to go to college. Get my degree, in which I'd become the first to do so in my family. Become an All-American. Get drafted and go to the NFL. Buy my mom a house and take care of her for the rest of her life. Become an All-Pro. Go to the Super Bowl and own my own business. At 12 years old, I wrote that out and I put it on my wall. And I looked at it every night before going to bed, and I looked at it every morning before going to school.
Wow. At 12 years old. I know I wasn't doing that at 12 years old. Let's talk about your relationship with your dad for a few minutes here. That's a pretty rough start. What has the Lord taught you over the years about your relationship with your father?
Well, you know, my dad, I guess the best word that I could use to describe it, just to cut to the chase, I hated my dad. I really did. I was afraid of him. We didn't have a conversation. And I just stayed away from him. I stayed out of his way. And that was my relationship with my dad. And as time went on, you know, it just grew. And it really was many years later that in one of the what I was thinking was going to be the greatest day of my life, ended up being the day that I really came face to face with what I felt about my dad. And that was the night before the Super Bowl. I'm sitting there thinking, tomorrow, this game that we're playing, the Super Bowl, this is going to be a pivotal moment in my life. I am going to feel so great after this game because it's another goal that I'm making. And you talk about being the best in the world. But after that game, the confetti's coming down, and right now, I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling afraid, I'm feeling angry, and I'm crying. And everybody's running around, the confetti's coming down. Mike, we won the Super Bowl, we're the best, we're the world champion. And I'm thinking to myself, what is happening to me? What is going on inside of me? And then there was this voice, this small, quiet voice inside of me, in my spirit, that says, you need to go forgive your father. And I'm thinking, you have got to be kidding me. We just won the Super Bowl. That's got to be Satan. And there's no way. There's no way that can be God. I mean, no. But that voice only got louder as time went on. And after, about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I picked up the phone and I called my dad.
So I want to make sure that I'm hearing this right and everyone's hearing this right. So you're saying you're on the field after winning the Super Bowl, and the confetti's flying and everybody's celebrating and millions of people are watching this on TV, and the Holy Spirit of God on the inside of you as a follower of Jesus says to you, you need to forgive your father. So you make a phone call. How's that phone call go?
Well, I haven't talked to my dad in a very long time. And I made this agreement inside of me. I said, I'm going to call. And if my dad doesn't answer the phone, I'm done. I've done it. It's over. Let it go. Well, I call him, and he picks up. He says, hello? Dad, this is your son, Mike. Yep. Dad, I just want you to know that I forgive you. And he said, forgive me for what? And so you could tell the conversation was not going to go well. And as we began to get into the conversation, Dad talked about, hey, I put food on the table, I put clothes on your back, I put a roof over your head. What else is there? And needless to say, for the next hour and a half, we screamed, cried, yelled. But when I hung up that phone, I knew I needed to go see him, finish this. And a couple of weeks after that, I'm on a plane from Chicago on my way to Houston to sit down and come face to face with my dad. And I was thinking on the plane of what I was going to say to him, how low I thought he was, how bad of a dad he was, how bad of a person he was. And I'm gonna give it to him, what I've thought about him all my life. And when I got there and we sat down and I began to talk to my dad, I began to see, the more I talked to him, the more I saw this little boy that hated his dad and never got healed, never dealt with it, and just began to realize that my dad had gotten thrown out of his house at 13 years old. And he was going from one uncle to an aunt, cousin, trying to stay with them. And at 15, he's on his own. At 16, he and my mom meet and they get married. Next thing you know, he has 10 kids. He's a pastor of a church, and no time really for the family. You're working, trying to feed this family. Well, he never had a chance. How in the world did he have a chance to even think about how to be a father, how to be a dad, how to be a husband? He just didn't have the tools. So as I sat there looking at him, I felt for him. He tried, but when we are not equipped, when we think we're ready for life, and life hits us in the face, and we don't have an answer, we have no chance against the enemy that knows who we are, knows who our fathers were, knows who our grandfathers, great-grandfather. He knows all the history of who we are. We don't have a chance. And so as I'm sitting there, I realized that I was going down the same path that my dad was. And I was getting afraid while I was sitting there, knowing that I am in the same place that you are. And so I'm looking at my dad while we were talking, and as we came to the end of our conversation, I was shaken. I said, Dad, I said, Mom said that I'm just like you. And I can see that. Dad, what can you tell me to help me so that I don't become like you? That was it was an interesting moment, putting things in perspective. My mom used to make a statement, and it's so true. Many times we see a situation, but we will never, ever know truly what the situation is.
The goodness of God in that moment on the football field after the Super Bowl to tell you need to forgive your dad, which brought healing, new perspective, reconciliation. Just a good moment for us to recognize that forgiveness matters. It brings good things to our lives. The opposite is anger and bitterness. And it's the goodness of God that shows us the right way when it comes to overcoming all of the hurt and the pain of life. I want to stay on this topic of forgiveness just for a moment. Your father left when you were 12. Your brother Grady dies in that car accident when you were 12. Talk to us about forgiveness when it comes to the drunk driver.
I thought about that a little more, even as we talked about it last night, but it's interesting to me, I never really thought about the drunk driver at all. I guess I'm so familiar with pain and understanding how it's so easy to come out of a situation and blame somebody. Oh, you killed my brother. You know what? I don't know what it was. I don't know why he was drinking. I don't know what caused it or whatever. But I know that it's not something that he wanted to do. And I realize that there's so many things that we do and have done as people simply because we have never dealt with some of the things that are in us. And until we come face to face with who we are and some of the pain and some of the anger and some of the things that have happened to us that we don't deal with, we just shove it, put it somewhere. It doesn't go away. It continues to manifest itself in many ways in our lives. And, that's one of the biggest reasons I'm really thankful for my wife for hanging in there with me. Because I remember when we first met, it was like I was this guy. I picture myself as this bronco, this horse that's just bucking. And people were trying to put this saddle on me. But I'm like, no, you're not going to change me. I know I'm going to stay free. I know what I feel. I'm a man's man, and I'm going and I'm doing. And you know what? I was just running. And his fear and his hate and his anger and his all of those things. And we just because we don't talk about it, just because we don't think about it, those are things that the evil one will use at the worst opportune time in our marriage, in our relationship with our kids, in our jobs. It will always keep us from being all that God has created us to be.
It's a good word. We're going to move into your NFL playing days now, and I have a question for you that I need to set up by reading an excerpt from an article. It says, in 1985, Coach Mike Ditka said that the day before the game, he was talking to the offense while Singletary was in the next room giving the defense a motivational speech. While it started quiet, within minutes, Samurai Mike was screaming at the top of his lungs, and the defensive players were throwing chairs and knocking over tables. All right. So you are known for being an incredibly intense person. So here's my question. When has that intensity been helpful for you, and when has it been not so helpful?
I think that intensity is a tremendous thing to have when you're responding. And when I'm responding is something that the Lord is putting in me to allow me to have the courage to say what I need to say. As a team, as a group of men or people that's getting ready to go do something, but it's the wrong thing. And I haven't really listened. I'm full of emotion, and I just go do it. So that is reacting. But being able to respond when I know it's the Lord and I don't want to do it. I'm looking at a situation and I don't want to say anything. But I know if I don't say anything that since it's been brought up to my mind and my spirit, I need to say something. And I take the risk and I trust the Lord to say, you know what? I hear what you're saying, but that's not right. Now, you may fire me, you may do whatever you're going to do, but I got to tell you the right thing. And so now I'm responding to what I feel the Lord is leading me to rather than reacting to something that I want to do for maybe the wrong reason.
How did you learn to differentiate the difference between anger and intensity?
Wow, I'm still working on it. I'm still... because sometimes there's such a thin line between the two. And, the Bible says, above all, the heart above all is wicked, and you can't trust it. You really have to pay attention to what you're feeling and pay attention to where the root of it is coming from. So I just think that I'm always checking my motives, and the older I get, the more important I realize it is, because I don't want to give the evil one more artillery to work against me.
All right, here's a bit of an easy question. What was your favorite thing about being an NFL player? I'm sure there are lots of good things, but what was your favorite thing about playing in the NFL?
My favorite thing about being in the NFL is knowing the influence and the power that I had in certain situations, and knowing that I was basically giving the Lord the power of attorney to act upon my behalf, and know that people expected me because I was this linebacker, this mean guy, and I remember there was an article written one time about me saying, should Singletary be allowed to play the game? This guy is supposed to be a Christian, but he's hurting people. He's knocking people out. People can't, they don't know where they are. They can't get up. They can't play the next week. And I'm thinking, I started feeling bad about myself. I'm thinking, man, they're making me out to be this bad guy. And I really had to think about that. I had to take some time to think, Lord, am I a bad guy? And I worked through that and realized that, you know what? I gave you that spirit. I gave you the ability to play that game the way it's supposed to be played. Don't let somebody else take it and twist it and make it a curse. And so, being able to work through things like that, you always have to realize, where is this coming from? And better yet, where is it going?
All right, so in the earlier years of your marriage, you're in your NFL career, and you're being recognized for the legendary player that you were. And so you're winning award after award after award, Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl after Pro Bowl. And while you were winning lots of awards and receiving lots of accolades, your wife was not so impressed because in her eyes, you weren't an award-winning husband. But you made some adjustments during that season. What were those adjustments?
Thankfully, I had a Christian mentor, a pastor. I was just going full speed. I I guess by people telling me that I was too small, and that was something that I had always heard all my life, and it pushed me to a whole nother level. I wanted to be the best, and I wanted to give God the glory for whatever I was doing, and so I was working at it every day, and my thought was, to watch film. After we played the games on Sunday, I went, instead of going home, I would go straight to the facility, get the film from that day and watch it that night and begin to start watching the team that we were going to play the next week. And so I remember Kim saying something that was a kind of a theme in our marriage while I was playing football, and it was, Mike, you're home, but you're not here. And I'm thinking, why you keep picking on me? I'm here. I'm in the house. But I was watching film. And, the kids would come in and say, hey, sit down. I'm watching film here. Got to get ready. And so I remember my pastor mentor sat me down one time and said, Mike, you got to understand something. You got to have some balance. You're an all-pro player. You're making Defensive Player of the Year. You're doing this. You're a great leader, all those things. What's happening at home? And Kim she has to do everything by herself. And she needs you to be the godly man that godly influence that you need to have in that household. You've got to come alongside her and help. And I'm thinking, what do you mean? What are you talking about? I mean, we're not fighting. We're not cursing each other out. We're not throwing dishes across the room. We're not, I'm at home. I'm not hitting her. I'm not screaming at her. I'm providing. It's easy to think about your dad and compare your situation to your dad. But this has nothing to do with your dad. This has everything to do with you being the very best that God has called you to be. He called you to love your wife as Christ loved the church and present her unblemished. Are you doing that? Maybe there are some things that I could do a little better. And it really forced me to begin to sit down and have conversations with my wife about, I love you, but can you feel my love? Do you understand that I love you? Do you know that I want to be the best husband that I can possibly be, the best father that I can possibly be? How do I come alongside you and help you understand that? And at first she had to really realize that I wasn't trying to play some game, but I really meant what I was saying. So the honesty had to be there, but we began to talk about it and begin to work through it. And she began to help me equip myself with things that I needed to be a better dad and a better husband.
To your credit, you made a lot of adjustments. You also made some adjustments when your playing career was wrapping up, thinking about going into coaching. And by the way, it's probably a good moment here to just pause and just say this out loud. Change is possible, y'all. With the Lord's help, we can identify things in our lives and make adjustments and see better days. So thank you for being an example of that. All right, let's talk about the transition to coaching. You didn't go straight from playing to coaching. You decided to take a season and focus on your family. So I want to read an excerpt here from The Athletic to set up this question. It says, but at 35, Singletary wasn't ready to give his life to coaching. 2 weeks after his last game, his wife Kim gave birth to their fourth child. 3 more children would follow. Singletary asked 5 veteran coaches how they balanced being husbands, fathers, and coaches. Each one put his head down and acknowledged he never balanced anything. Coaching had come first. So Singletary put his coaching career on hold. He was serious about being the best father and husband he could be. 10 years later, at 45, he was ready to begin his coaching career and became the linebackers coach for the Ravens. How did you navigate those decisions?
Well, I just, it was really pretty easy as Kim and I continued to talk. And the thing that I was so fortunate to have great coaches in my life. And so one of the things that I really wanted to do more than anything was to give back. And I couldn't wait to become a coach. But I also wanted to ask the question to those coaches that I really respected: how did you become a great coach, great father, great husband? And every one of them just said, Mike, I'm going to tell you the truth now. You're going to coach. You got to coach. You got to marry a great woman. She's going to raise those kids. So I had just come out of a very selfish situation in being a player. And the commitment that I had being a player, knowing that coaching was going to be a whole nother dimension. And so I realized that coming from a single-parent home and realizing that what I went through with my dad and I was about to repeat it myself, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to have, 10, 15, 20 years pass, and I'm sitting in the room and my kids and my wife are talking about things that happened when they were growing up, but I wasn't in the picture. I didn't go to any games. I wasn't any part of their lives. I was just there. I'm just dad. But I got trophies. I got Hall of Fame bust. I got all kind of things, Super Bowl. There's no doubt. There is no doubt. If I'd gone straight into coaching, there's no doubt in my mind that I'd be divorced today. None. Because it would have been about me.
All right, let's talk about your most famous coaching moment. Another viral video that exists on the internet. We're running out of time here, but I want to make sure we talk about this. Okay, so for those of you who are sports fans, you know what I'm about to talk about. For those of you that are not sports fans, let me set this up. So Mike was the head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, became the head coach mid-season in 2008. So it's your first game as head coach, and player Vernon Davis commits a foolish penalty that costs the team. And you remove Vernon from the game. And then there is the post-game press conference where coaches try to say very little. But you did not say very little, so I want to read what you said in this press conference, and then I have a question for you. It says, we cannot make decisions that cost the team, and then come off the sideline and it's nonchalant. No, you know what? This is how I believe, okay? I'm from the old school. I believe this. I would rather play with 10 people rather than play with 11 when I know that right now that person is not sold out to be part of this team. It's more about them than it is about the team. Cannot play with them, cannot win with them, cannot coach with them, can't do it. I want winners. I want people that want to win. Then a reporter asks, what did you tell Vernon before he left the field? You said, I told him that he would do a better job for us right now taking a shower and coming back and watching the game than go out on the field. Simple as that. Wow. First game as head coach of the San Francisco 49ers. But now I want to read what Vernon Davis had to say about that moment. I remember the very first time he kicked me off the field. Tears were shed. I told him I want to be traded, coach. And he said, okay, I'll find another team for you. That moment, it started to click for me. It made me a better man, a better teammate, a better leader for my team. It helped me become the player I am today. How does it make you feel when you hear guys like Vernon Davis say, he made me a better man?
I think when I started playing football, football was a different game. It was, you played football to be a part of a team. And being a part of that team made you do things a certain way that represented that team. It was always about the team. And when I became a coach, I always wanted the guys to understand, guys, I love you, and I'm always going to make the best decision for the team. And Vernon and I had conversations. I told him prior to the game, if anything like that happened, that would be the response. And he did it anyways. And so for me, the only thing I was trying to do is have Vernon understand, as well as anybody else on the team, including myself, make sure that anything that you do is for the betterment of the team. And if it's not going to make us better, then we don't need it. And so I wanted to make that loud and clear. I wanted to get it out of the way, and I wanted to continue to move forward. And I just talked to Vernon not long ago. He's writing a book, and he asked me to do the foreword to his book. And it was very interesting having dialogue about that all over again.
It's good to hear. Sometimes the right thing is the hard thing.
Yes.
Yeah. What's Mike Singletary doing these days? What are you up to?
Well, I'm doing everything that I can to help the lower socioeconomic areas, the communities around the country, get back in the game. Whether it's education, whether it's health, being able to help them somehow realize that you shouldn't be on the outside looking in, pointing the finger, blaming everybody else. Find a way to get back in the game and realize that God created you as special and you can become everything that he created you to be, but you got to get in the game. Got to get in the game.
And the name of your foundation is what?
Changing our perspective.
Mike Singletary, it is really fun to watch a Hall of Fame player play a sport, but it is inspiring to listen to a Hall of Fame dad and husband and Christ follower share their story. Thank you for being with us for Inspiring Stories Weekend. Everybody, Mike Singletary.
Thank you. Thank you.